Iron City built. It's time for the Steel City Nation podcast. Here's your host, Mark Mariday.
Steel City Nation, my guest this evening is Michael McKenry, former Major League Baseball catcher and now a studio analyst working in the Pittsburgh Pirates. Michael, how's it going this evening?
Everything's going good. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I'm excited to have you on. Looking forward to talking a little bit about your career coming into Major League Baseball, and then talking about the team that you have the closest connection with right now, the Pittsburgh Pirates, and what things look like for the future for them. Michael, let's start off by talking about what it was like for you as you made your way through the minors and got to the show. That call, come on up and play with us. What was that like?
It was a journey. And one thing I constantly reminded myself, because of my wife, she always said, enjoy the journey, enjoy the day, and embrace it. Because I think a lot of people can look past it. We were just talking off air about how cool some of the stadiums are, how fun that experience is. Some of the best memories in baseball are really in the minor leagues, even more so than the major leagues, because major leagues becomes so much more of a business than it does necessarily, just pure grit, love of the game where you're playing the minor leagues. You're not getting paid anything. You have terrible bus trips. You have awful hotels. So you're literally doing it because you love it and you're chasing the dream that you've wanted since a little kid. So a lot of great memories first off, but it took me all over the country. I started out in Washington State, then came back to Asheville, North Carolina, played in Hawaii for a winter league, came back Modesto, California, then back out to the Arizona Fall League. Then went to the Dominican Republic, Tulsa, Arizona, out to Colorado Springs, and finally got called up in 2010 with the Colorado Rockies in September. So it was a journey. I got to experience every single level. I had good times, I had bad times, I had good years, I had great years, I want to start over years.
Yeah.
And I think that's just part of it. It was a great journey, and it made me who I am.
Hey, were your confidence ever shaken at any point during that big journey you just talked about? Like, were you ever like, man, I don't know if I want to go back next spring. I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah, I'll get a little real with you real quick. In 2008, I was in Modesto, California, in high A. I just had a great year the year before. I was an all-star midseason and postseason. I was a winter league all-star, really up and up, top prospect.
Yeah.
Got voted best defensive catcher in our organization going into that year. So like everything was uppity up. So we go to spring training. I'm in big league camp. It's actually my second big league camp, my second spring training. So it's really special. Got my first major league spring training hit, extra base hit, caught a shutout. Did a lot of things that were really, really cool in spring training. And then I went to Modesto and I started out the year 1 for 35.
Oh gosh. And
I really struggled. And then finally I kind of stepped back. I realized what was going on, and I was getting a ton of pressure put on me by our pitching coach. He had one way to do things. The manager had a different way. Me and the manager were really close. He's still my mentor. And I had a hard time balancing it. And it was weighing on me day in, day out. So it was taken away from my ability to just go out and play the game. Yeah. And the field was always a place I got away from. But then something in 2008 happened that was just devastating. My wife's dad ended up passing away. And all of a sudden, that relationship didn't matter as much anymore. Yeah. My perspective changed. I came back. I was hitting 220 when I left. And a month later, I looked up. I was hitting 280. I hit 415 for 4 weeks that year because my perspective shifted. And I tried never to forget that how fortunate we are every day to show up to play baseball. Even if you're in the toughest situation, you're getting ridiculed, you're getting belittled, it doesn't matter. You're still very fortunate to show up, to hold a bat in your hand and play catch with someone every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. I envy you being able to do that for such a long period of time of your life. That's every boy's dream, I think, or at least most boys' dreams to play a professional sport. And I know baseball's taken a hit over the years, like in terms of the amount of kids coming out and playing and everything. But where I live, I do see it picking up some. Like my son played on a team this year. We started out with just one team at his age group. Next thing you know, by the end of the fall season, we had 3 teams. So that many kids
Oh, wow.
had decided to come out and play. Maybe it was because COVID had them locked down all summer. I don't know. But, I think in a certain way, a lot of those kids have that dream, and I just keep pushing them. As somebody who's an educator, I push those kids towards those dreams. You just never know. Like you said, you never know. Appreciate every day. Mike, what was your favorite minor league ballpark? I love minor league ballparks. It's my favorite with my sons. What was your favorite?
You know, to be honest, it's probably Durham, North Carolina. It's where I ended my career. I'd never thought I'd say that, but I think the rich history there with Bull Durham,
Yeah.
going to see that old stadium, but getting to see the Bull every day, hitting it during BP, making it snarl, was just a lot of fun. And we ended up winning the national championship, so that also made it special. But I liked going to those places that had that rich history.
Yeah.
And that was one town that, they also embraced their team, kind of like we were family.
Yeah.
And you felt it. I mean, they called me the father of the team because I was one of the older guys on the team. I called it the Mickey Mouse Club. It was a lot of fun. Good guys. Got to watch them just recently. There's about 9 or 10 of them still playing on the Tampa Bay Rays. So it's really cool to be able to see guys kind of, grow into themselves and see what they can do. So I probably think of a couple more that are my favorite, but some of the coolest memories and probably the best tradition would be Durham. Absolutely.
Did you pull for the Rays during the series?
I did. Don't tell anybody with the Dodgers, but yes, I did.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I enjoyed it. I watched more of the World Series this year than I have the past couple of years, and I enjoyed it. Yes, you missed the fans and that going on, but the baseball product on the field was really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like two science projects going up against each other.
Yeah.
I mean, what they were throwing on the mound day in, day out was just, you're seeing 102 consistently, you're seeing nasty breaking balls, and then you're seeing, just absolute tater tots every now and then. I mean, it was just a very exciting game, a little bit of base running, a little bit of small ball. So you got to kind of taste a little bit of all of it. And I think that was really good.
What'd you think about the kid who had the breakout postseason? What, Azarona?
I just think the St. Louis Cardinals somehow have some fairy dust that they sprinkle on these guys. It doesn't matter if they come up with them or they go somewhere else. They seem to have, some ability to put things together. And I don't know if it's because of the character they find or if it's the way that they come up through the system. I played in that system, played in major leagues there. The people there are phenomenal, but I didn't come up through the organization, so I really don't know. But what he did was remarkable, and it was nonstop. And they literally weren't trying to pitch to him the last 4 or 5 games, and he still did damage. And that just shows, how poised he is, how locked in he is on what he's trying to do. He didn't jump outside of his zone. He stayed right within his zone. He understood where his zone was, where a lot of young guys do not have a clue where their good zone is.
It was fun to watch him hit that home run the other night. And then I read a stat. I was scrolling through Twitter while I was watching the game, and I read a stat that he had as many postseason home runs as Colin Moran had for the Pirates to lead them in home runs during the season this year. And I was like, wow, isn't that the tale of 2 different teams right there?
I mean, he had the most hits in postseason history. I think the only thing he didn't get was OPS. And that's just because of the sample size. He had a lot more at bats than I believe. He's a Royal. I can't think of his name. Solar has the highest OPS in postseason history, but he only played a series and a half. So it's a lot different when you have a brand new 16-team postseason. I mean, he got a ton of at bats, 10 homers. I think he had close to 31 hits or something.
Yep. It was
silly.
ridiculous.
I mean, it's just silly numbers.
Are you rooting for them to continue with the 16-team playoff format? Because I've read that that's getting thrown around a little bit to maybe continue that. Would you like to see?
I didn't know how I'd like it. As a player, you can't not root for it. I mean, everybody wants to play in the playoffs. I actually loved it. I think giving other teams opportunities, and still the best 2 teams came out on top. But I think the best part about it is it kind of equals the playing field.
Yeah.
You may have a Kershaw and you may have a Snell, but do you have a 2 and a 3, and can they kind of go through the whole postseason, stay healthy, and continue to pitch well? And that's what you saw, and I thought that was really cool.
It's hard to question Kevin Cash. He did such a great job with Tampa, but do you think he made the right move pulling Snell?
No, and I think it was a move that was set before the game started, and I think that was the biggest issue. They rely on analytics so much that they have certain numbers, and they say, okay, well, 30% of the time here he's going to start to falter.
Yeah.
So they flip that script, get him out of the game, bring in someone else. But I think there's a lot to be said with people, and Derek Shelton, the new Pirates manager, is very good at this. And I feel like Kevin Cash is too, but you've gotten to this point doing it one way. You kind of want to stick to your guns. I would have kept Snell in. I know Snell. I've caught Snell. He's just an ironclad competitor, so I'm just going to let him go. But that's my personality, is I always believe in the guy over the analytics, and I'm a big analytics fan. But I'm going to say always, like, if I have that gut feeling, I'm running with him, and I wish they would have.
He had that fiery competitor look on his face. He reminded me so much of I'm drawing a blank on his name. Pitched for the Pirates the last go around at the end of his career. Came from the Yankees.
AJ Burnett.
Yes, AJ. Yes. He had that look on his face when they yanked him, and I was like, wow, that looks just so familiar to me, man.
For real. Yeah.
So let's go back to you a little bit. What was it like getting that call, your first trip up to the bigs?
It was wild. I mean, it was a wild year in general. I was on the roster, got put in the off season, and there was like 4 or 5 different times where I thought the call was coming.
Yeah.
Hey, Mac, you're not playing today. Something's going on in the big leagues. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. And this is before the taxi squad existed.
Yeah.
It was a fake taxi squad then. So, like, we didn't get service time. We didn't get anything. We just sat there and waited. So that happened 4 or 5 times. Then finally in early September, I got called up. And I remember looking at my wife and say, hey, I got to go to Denver. And she goes, huh? And then right when she said, huh, she was like, what? And she jumped on my back and was really excited. And it was really neat because we won 10 games in a row and got into the playoff race right when I got there. So I get to be a part of that. And then, it's just step by step kind of learning, understanding, the ebb and flows of being a Major League Baseball player. And it was really, really cool.
That's an awesome place to play, Colorado. I was in Colorado when they had their inaugural season.
So cool.
I literally have newspapers and some other stuff that they gave away. That was just awesome to be part of watching that thing transpire. I was out there for probably like 2 or 3 weeks. One of my good buddies' brothers lived out there. So
okay.
That
is
a
beautiful place.
Oh, yeah. I love Colorado. I haven't been back since, but it's on the bucket list to go back out there and just explore. I mean, I was everywhere out there. I saw Air Force play Hawaii in football.
Oh, so cool.
Just so much you can do out there.
It really is, yeah.
What was your most exciting game you ever played in during your career? What do you hang your hat on there?
So personally, I have to say the Marmol home run, my first home run. We're in the 8th inning, hit a go-ahead 3-run homer, got a curtain call twice. It was a full stadium. We're in first place. And, as a Pirates fan, being in first place in July is really special, especially at that moment, trying to kind of climb our way out of that 20, or I guess at that point it was 17 years losing. So it was really special to get embraced by the fans, get a curtain call, have that long at bat against Marmol and hit a homer. So that's personally my favorite. And then the coolest game I've ever been a part of was the playoff game, wild card game against Cincinnati in 2013, the blackout game. I think I hope it's not a once in a lifetime experience, but if it is, I'm glad I was a part of it because it was really, really cool.
Was that the drop baseball one?
It was. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
so cool.
That was special. It's so hard for me to digest everything that goes on with the organization because I'm older than you, obviously. And I was a little kid when they won it in '79. And year after year, they were so competitive. And then they just fell off the end, and it's been just so hard to watch it. seeing Tyler Glasnow out there throwing BBs, man, that was just, I rooted for the kid. You know, when I see a Pirate, no matter who they're playing for, I'm rooting for that guy because I just kind of feel like sometimes they're just a breeding ground for superstars in Major League Baseball. And, you know,
It seems that way. Yeah.
I mean, I have not given up on Archer, though. I know a lot of people are down on that trade, but me personally, there's something about him that I really like. And I think if he comes back, the change of the coaching staff, and I think there's some philosophy change there. I think he's going to come back. What do you think about that? What's your take on that? You think he's?
So I think they're going to. I'll tell you what I would do. I would not tender his contract. I would pay him outright, but I'd bring him back. So I talked to people on Twitter about this, and they got onto me about saying renegotiate his contract. But in baseball terms, that's kind of what I'm saying is I wouldn't pay him the $10-11 million he's owed because he's coming off injury.
Yeah.
But knowing Archer well enough and knowing that he's going to want comfort, and if he goes anywhere else, it's going to be a tryout. So I would love to see him back in a Pirates uniform and in the back end of the bullpen. And if he ends up pitching his way out of the back end of the bullpen, great. If not, I think that's a career change similar to John Smoltz that could make him be a completely different animal. I think he would be an all-star. I think he'd strike out the world. I think his intensity would be contagious. And I feel like his competitiveness, inning by inning or even 2 innings, because that's kind of how he's built. He can pitch 2 to 3 innings, similar to the guy in Milwaukee and Hader. So I think with the game's shifting, I'd love to see him at the back end of the bullpen and see what he can do, because really the stuff's been good. I think how to utilize the stuff's been the weak link. You know, try to throw a sinker, wasn't profiled out well for a sinker, but with the new staff, new technology, I do think he can get a lot from it. But I think instead of going into it trying to establish as a starter, if he could be a back into the bullpen, it's going to be a need for the Pirates unless they bring back Keone Kela. It's going to be a huge, huge bonus for them. So I hope that's what happens. That's what I would do. I think it gives you an established veteran major leaguer with high strikeout ability at the back end of your bullpen.
Do you think that the pitching staff was the issue to a certain degree then this year? I mean, you didn't have Jameson, you didn't have Chris Archer. You know, they really, you know, you lost Musgrove for a little while. I mean, do you think that was a big part of that problem, them not able to string some wins together early on?
I think it was the uncertainty. If you look at Major League, and I did this at the end of the season, is if you look at Major League Baseball, you kind of know what you're going to get with certain guys. So if Stanton gets a full season, he's going to hit 50 homers.
Yeah.
But if you don't have Stanton, you kind of know what you're going to get from Judge or whoever it is. Like, best example is Garrett Cole. He didn't have the most spectacular season you would think he was going to have, but he still, every single game he went out there, he struck out 12. And you knew that you had an opportunity to win every single time he walked on the mound, even though he gave up some extra homers, whatnot. We didn't have a lot of guys like that. We didn't have one guy that you're just like, besides Adam Frazier, there wasn't one guy that just said, you knew every time the ball was hit to him as an out.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest thing for the Bucks is even their lineup and their pitching staff all year. It was more or less they were in a lab trying to create what they want for the future and weren't so much worried about the product on the field today. It was an experiment to try to figure out what they had, who they were going to move forward with, who was possibly going to be a trade chip in the offseason.
Yeah.
So it was more of an opportunity for the staff and the front office to understand who they had, where they're going, and what they need moving forward. So it was constantly a roller coaster of sorts on all aspects, because I think a lot of guys were trying things that they wouldn't normally try. I think guys were searching for things that they didn't realize they were going to be searching for. But I think in the long run, it's going to make them better. I really do.
Do you think the marriage of Sheldon and Cherington in the front office and on the field. Do you think that's a good marriage? Do you think they're going to take them back to where they were in, what was it, 13, 14, and 15? Do you think those guys can get that accomplished?
I do, and I think it's the surrounding cast that they're going to put around him. Sherrington's really, really good in every aspect. He's good with people. He has incredible knowledge of the game. He understands the ebbs and flows of, how a game should work. And he also uses the human element as well as the analytical element. And I think he's going to be a good guy to watch piece together something in a different way. I don't think we're going to understand exactly what he's doing until it's happening, because, he's scooping up international bonus money.
Yeah.
He's making little bitty signings that maybe don't, jump off the page right now, but they probably will later on. I think he's going to stack the bottom half of the organization with incredible talent. I think he's going to make many trades that maybe bring back big results. And the biggest thing is guys are going to maximize their potential from top to bottom. The Pirates organization in general, going into last year, were the last in all of baseball in using analytics properly. They were using it in the way that they wanted to use it as an organization, but not to enhance every individual. That's why you saw Garrett Cole leave and get better. That's why you saw Charlie Morton leave and get better. That's why you saw Meadows leave and get better. Glasnow leave, get better. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on, because they went to organizations that maximize that guy's potential. They didn't try to maximize him as a Pirate.
Right.
That makes sense.
Hey, who was it? Who did they trade the young pitcher up to Toronto? Actually, no, they cut him loose. I think they DFA'd him, then they ended up trading him to Toronto. He was another young guy like Glasnow. It's escaping my mind. But when he got interviewed, once he got up to Toronto, he talked about exactly what you talked about, how they did not bring to light some of the analytics that made him a better pitcher there. Now, he has since moved on. I believe he's pitching over in Japan now or something like that. But he said exactly what you just said, Like I said, I root for those guys, even when
Absolutely, me too.
I really do. I'm a baseball fan first. I'm a baseball fan first. So if you had to pick your 5 starters, what's your rotation looking like for the Pirates to start this season?
I'm starting Tyon day 1, Musgrove day 2. I've thought about putting Brault as 2. And the reason why I say that is, if you look across the board over the last 5 months of actual baseball, he's been by far the best, by far. And so I flirt with him in there. And I also like that breakup of right, left, right. And I think the 2-headed monster is Tyon. Everybody thinks it's Tyon and Keller, but it's actually Tyon and Musgrove. Keller is a question mark. I think he has all the ability in the world, but he's a guy that I want to put him at the back end of a rotation and hope he becomes the front end. That's what I want. So I have Tyon, I have Brault, I have Musgrove, I have Chad Kuhl, and then I have Keller.
How about James Brubaker?
So him and Kuhl are fighting.
Yeah.
But the one thing about Brubaker is he's got options, is 1. And 2, I would make him a long reliever until the time we need him. And he's my 6th guy. I would put him in front of Keller, but it's never going to happen. So I don't even want to pretend like it's going to. And the reason I say that is because there's a little bit more competitive edge.
Okay.
And I think it would piss off Mitch Keller enough to push him to the next level. But that's just my thought.
What do you think's missing with Keller, though? Because he was he was a prospect that was off the charts coming up. I thought he finished the season really strong. I was pretty pissed when he was throwing that no-hitter and he got yanked. I was kind of upset about that.
So all right, this is where analytics come in. And I say this very lightly. I'm so happy the way he finished the season, but it was dumb luck. It really was. But it also shows you how good his stuff is, because he pitched pretty poorly, especially the game I think he walked 8. But his stuff is swing and miss stuff. He has 3+ pitches in the major leagues, and it's hard to get 1.
Yeah.
let alone 2. The guy's got 3+ pitches. His spin was down on his fastball. His spin was down on his breaking ball. Spin was down on his slider. Velocity was down. It was starting to tick up towards the end of the season. I think that's why he got a little erratic, because he had a little bit more behind it, didn't know what to do with it. If he can hone in on that Garrett Cole mentality, that AJ Burnett mentality, that Francisco Liriano mentality of like, when it's game day, he's a different human being. I don't know if he needs to be a jerk. I don't know if he needs to be a jokester, but he's got to find that Superman cape to put on those days and go out. And he should be a guy that punches out 10, 11, 12. One day he should jump out there and punch out 15. He's not a guy that's going to pitch to contact and hope for the best. He's a guy that's got to go out there and dominate.
You think
And
that
he's got to have that presence about him, though. Like, whatever it is for him and his personality, he's got to find that. That's the separator. And if he finds that, watch out.
you think that team needs like to get themselves a veteran guy in that rotation that's going to help bring that out of him, like an AJ Burnett type of guy that's going to come in there like he did. He helped so many of those other guys when he came on board. You know that. You were there. I mean, do you think they need that in that locker room for that pitching staff?
I think they got it. I think they have it between Tyon and Musgrove. I think Musgrove came on to something at the end of the season with the mentality. He was watching an MMA fight, one of his favorite guys. I can't remember his name, Cowboy something. And he talked about how he had to start focusing on himself. And as soon as he said that, I'm pretty sure I turned to fire. I was so fired up. Like, I was like, yes, he finally gets it. He's a team guy that's never going to leave his DNA, but he's got to be a little selfish when he walks out on the mound. He can't go out there and say, oh, I'm going to throw this breaking ball right here. It's going to be a ground ball to the shortstop. We're going to turn it over play. No. You're going to strike this guy out and put all of it on your shoulders because it's your career, it's your moment, it's your time. You're the pitcher, period. And then when he does ground out in that double play, you're happy as all get out.
Yeah.
But it's changed his mindset and his expectations, and it showed through. I think it showed so well in his last couple games. Struck out 11, struck out 10, 2 wins. See you later. Go in the off season, and he's just absolutely in a great place.
Trevor,
And I think that's one mentality. And then Jameson Tyon's the more analytical mentality. He's going after it to understand, how can I maximize my ability with all this technology, all this knowledge around me, and my awesome stuff. And I think he's a guy that's going to be good for a long time, as long as he stays healthy.
Trevor Williams not going to make that squad, or is he going to be a middle reliever? What do you think?
I hope they bring him back, but I hope they go back to 2000, I believe it was 17, where he started the year in the bullpen. And the reason why I really like that is I think he's a guy that can fill up a ton of innings. And 2, I think it will bring back that edge. There's no more experimenting. You got to go compete. And
Yeah.
I think that's when he's at his best. I think, trying to develop a new pitch, do this, do that.
Yeah.
Is great. But I think going out and just competing the way he has in the past is going to be really good for him. So, yeah, I hope they bring him back. I know they're going to have to probably designate him and try to talk him into coming back and not testing the free agent market because he's going to be expensive. But I think it'd be really good for him to come back and just kind of fight for it.
It'd be interesting if he ended up in San Diego. I know that's his hometown, and he seems to have a passion to be out there. And that's a pretty good team. I really enjoyed watching them play.
No doubt.
Season with Tatis, a great ball player, huh? He was fun to watch.
Yeah, God waved a wand over him for sure.
Yeah, I thought his dad was good, but nothing like the kid is.
No.
So let's go back to Kella. You mentioned Kella being the closer potentially. You think they'll bring him back? You think they can sign him and he can come in and do the job without any injury, without any melee? Is he really the guy that you read about? Is he a bad guy, or what's the deal with Kella? Tell us a little bit about what you think the deal is there.
I love Keone Kella. I was teammates with him in Texas, and if I had someone in a bunker, I'd want Keone Kella. And he's a great teammate, and he gets a bad rap because he is a great teammate. He'll stand up for his guys, and that's where he's gotten pushed back. And now, granted, like he's a tough guy, tough enchilada. So, he's going to push back where most people would probably just kind of keep their mouth shut. He's going to say his mind. You always know exactly where he's at. And I think that's what makes him a good person. And I respect people that are who they are and they don't change for anybody. And that's who he is. And I do think they have an opportunity to bring him back if they want to. The question is if they want to, if they want a guy that's going to, be able to show out, possible all-star in the back end of the rotation, and it kind of pushes guys, backwards a little bit in the sense of like you're going to push guys into AAA. It's going to create more depth. And then you're also going to have a piece that if you do fall out of favor or if someone steps up, he's a trade chip, you get something for him. That's the advantage of the Pirates right now is they can spend money almost like they're using these players as stock, right? I'm going to buy this stock and trade this stock, buy this stock and trade this stock. They can buy Keone Keller really, really cheap and then maybe trade him really, really high. Same with Chris Archer and some other guys if you bring them in.
You think they'll be competitive then this year? I mean, I know I'm going off of where I want to be, but you saying that putting them out there, do you think they'll trot a competitive team out? Because that's a pretty good division.
They're going to make the biggest jump this year out of every team in the division. And reason I say that is they didn't have an opportunity. Okay, let's take a step back. Let's look at what happened from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, right? Yeah. How much better were they by the end of the year? A lot better. Yeah. I mean, night and day better. So here's the reality we're in. They never had an opportunity to develop with these guys. So they didn't have a player plan going into last offseason to work on. Now all these guys do. So every single guy that went home, so your Colin Moran has his actual plan that is favored by his analytics. It's coming from one department, getting seen by another, and then trickles down to him. There's no more guessing. It's not like, oh, you need to work on your fielding. No. You need to work on, your range to the left during this shift. You need to work on your range to your right during this shift. You don't seem to play better during day games. Why is that? Let's look into that. You're not hitting against lefties throwing over 93. Let's focus on that this offseason. So the more specific way to grow is going to happen with these guys. And a lot of these guys have never had that. So we got to see it kind of play out with some of these guys. Steven Brault, Hartley was a great example. Some of these guys made some huge strides. And I think you're going to see that across the board with especially the pitching. And you're going to see guys in the minor leagues do the same thing. Some of these top prospects that, they've not had any power, but they have all the potential in the world. All of a sudden, they're going to be taught, hey, if you catch the ball 6 inches out in front, this is your power zone. This is where you can do damage. All of a sudden, they're going to be hitting 20, 30 homers. Like, where'd this kid come from? Well, he's never been taught that. He's never been shown his analytics and how to read them and how to maximize potential through them. So it's going to take all these guys to a whole nother level. So you got to think this team's almost been sitting with the plug and they just haven't plugged it in yet. So they've been looking at the TV and it's just been those little ants,
Yeah. Yep.
Now they're going to plug it in. It's going to be 3D color.
Everybody's going to come back with a little bit more of a focus of what they can do to be better.
Right. And
that's what I want to hear.
Yeah. And the transparency is better, right? So like, it's not like, oh, hey, so-and-so, this is where you stand. Ben Sherrington is going to tell you exactly where you stand. And I think that's what it's going to take. And it's going to be hard for Pirates fans to see some of the things that happen. Like, for example, next year, don't be surprised if Kevin Newman isn't playing well and he gets sent to AAA. Don't be surprised if the same thing happens to Brian Reynolds. Because the difference between this staff and the staff in the past is they're going to constantly put pressure on you. There's no it's different with like a backup catcher or a bench player or someone that's struggling. But if it's a guy that you're really depending on, they're not going to sit there and just be, all right, keep struggling, right? They're going to be, hey, let's go. Let's figure this out. Get you back out here and start raking again. Yeah. And I think that's where you're going to see guys see that the care for them is so much greater and they're going to make leaps and bounds.
That's exciting. Hey, let's field an opening day lineup then. Let's
Okay.
do that. Give me your outfield.
Polanco, Reynolds in center, and my left fielder is not a Pirate yet.
I was going to ask you that. We'll get to that. I have some questions about free agency.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on maybe who they can kind of gobble up. Depending on DH.
Yeah.
If there's DH opening day, Josh Bell's DHing. Colin Moran's playing first base. Second base, Kevin Newman. Shortstop is Gonzo. But I say that, and I really believe that Cole Tucker is going to take the job. And then third base is obviously Key Brian Hayes.
Why was Cole Tucker in center field then?
Because they were searching. You got to remember, without having a minor league system playing, you didn't have anything to look towards. And then they saw, Chris Martin? I think he's got incredible upside. I think he could be a center fielder. I think he could actually push Reynolds back to left. If you want to know who I really think's going to be left fielder, as long as all the legal stuff plays out, O'Neal Cruz will be the left fielder next year. But I'm going to wait and see on that one. I think Adam Frazier will get traded this offseason. So that's why he's not my second baseman. I think he's going to be too expensive too. So
I'm perfectly fine with Newman at second base, to be honest.
Well, he grades out better, especially defensively.
Yeah, Frazier has not been swinging the bat like he did a couple of years ago. I mean, I just don't feel like he brought the same pop that he had a couple of years ago.
Well, he's a different play. If you put him in a place like Milwaukee or Cincinnati, his pop plays different. You know, like he's got quite a bit of pop to the left side, but Pittsburgh's so big in left field.
Yeah.
A guy like him's not going to hit homers that way. Where if he goes to Cincinnati, he may hit 5 homers that way. Now he's a 17 to 22 home run guy.
Are you excited to see Hayes play a full season?
I am, and I think he's going to push the envelope with other guys. And going back to what we were saying about having certainty, he's a certain defender. So is Stallings. So you start bringing these guys. Gonzo's a certain defender. So, like, even if they don't hit, you know what you're getting defensively.
Yeah.
You're getting a plus defender. So if Hayes saves 12 runs next year, I mean, that's a huge bonus, even if he hits 250, right? Because that makes him an elite defender. And then you have an elite defender behind the plate. You could have a couple more elite defenders, depending on how it all pans out. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, we're pitching and playing defense. Now we just got to piece together some hitting. And I think that's going to be easier to do than they think.
What are they going to do to get Polanco back on track, man? He struggled this year. He had one small stretch where he really was lights out, but generally he looked lost up there so much.
So there's a huge upside and a huge downside. The fix is simple to see. He's got a hole in his bat. So if you bring down the swing and miss, he becomes a different animal because he hit the ball as hard as anybody in baseball when he hit it.
Yeah.
So, like, when he was actually hitting the ball, there wasn't anybody in the game hitting the ball as hard as he was consistently. So you just got to find that balance of, okay, well, where can we bring down the strikeouts? Is he going to bunt a little bit more, give him more confidence? Is he going to spread out and just try to, have a 2-strike approach from the get-go on certain guys? And that's where he's got to figure it out, in the sense of, like, understanding who he can hit, who he can't hit, who he matches up well against, who he doesn't match up well against, and kind of make those adjustments accordingly. And that's an ego thing. It's not always easy for guys to do. Like, I wish I had that ability when I was playing, to understand, okay, well, I don't hit these type of guys very good. So my approach would shift. I wouldn't think, ooh, I'm going to wait for my pitch and try to drive it in the gap, because I'm probably not going to get that pitch. And if I do, I'm probably not going to hit it. So let me try to change my entire approach to these type of guys.
Is his shoulder well enough for him to continue to play on a regular basis?
Yeah, he was a plus defender this year.
Okay.
And, that kind of blew my mind. But he made some exceptional plays that balanced out some of the mishaps he had out there. And if he can do that and hit 25 homers and walk and drive in some runs, he's going to be a great addition for the Buccos next year. Great. If he doesn't, it's going to be a tough year watching a guy making that much money who's such a good human being struggle.
Yeah, what that 1 through, I guess maybe 1 through 5, 1 through 6 in that batting order could be pretty dynamic. And that's starting with Newman as the number 2 guy, and Hayes and Bell if he can get his swing back, and Moran and Polanco. That really could be pretty special if they could get those guys all on the same page at the same time, which is easier said than done from where I'm sitting, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, let's go to catcher. You mentioned Stallings. I became a big fan of his. I caught all my life. My son does some catching. My daughters, when they played softball, were catchers. You're a catcher. You were always one of my favorite to watch behind the plate. So
I appreciate that.
let's talk about Stallings a little bit. He's part of the reason that pitching staff does well, but he also hit the ball really well this year too. What did he find mystically? And on top of that, who's going to be behind him this year? You really you got to have somebody with a little bit more oomph behind him. Somebody's going to come in and bring some. Would you think?
Yeah, I'll start out with Stallings in general. So I think he's going to be, when you look back and say, who are the Pirates? I think you're going to think about Jacob Stallings, because here he is. A year ago, he got designated, or 2 years ago, I guess. He got designated and then ended up being the starter, or part-time catcher, and then ended up being the starter the next year. And I think understanding that if you bet on the human being, and he's such a great guy, good teammate, good dad, good friend. You really just can't find a better human to be on a baseball field. So I think the Pirates are going to start searching for guys that they can bet on, that will constantly kind of, skyrocket their potential. And, Stallings is good, and he's always been good. He's been good in the minor leagues. He was very good defensively. He realized the analytics didn't play out well to him because good defensively changed. Even my last couple of years, it became more about receiving, not about throwing. Blocking wasn't as important. Now it's starting to grow a little bit more. And he saw that, he made the change. And I think he's going to do the same thing offensively. You saw a little glimpse of it. He's still more of a competitor at the plate instead of a guy that's just up there doing damage. And he's such a big guy. He hits the ball pretty hard. I think he's got more in the tank. And if he goes in this offseason and really focuses on swinging hard and making sure he's getting that barrel through the zone, there's not a reason he can't hit 10 to 15, even 20 homers next year very easily. He's the one guy that I really hope finds the balance of seeing pitches and walking. I think he's the one guy that has really good plate discipline on the team. And that's one huge missing component in that lineup. But I think Jacob Stallings is a guy that, like I said, you're going to look back at, yep, they molded the thought around the small market team around a guy like him. And then go to his backup. I think there's a couple ways you can go with his backup.
Mm-hmm.
You can go offensive oriented because you have that defense and Stallings, and you take that offense on the other days and try to match it up with the pitcher that would work well with him.
Yeah.
Or you go find a veteran and throw him back there, and you just keep trying to find that veteran that fits. I think there's going to be enough of them, and I think there's going to be enough guys that could either come in and compete or just, fill that role. But I think it's a role that they will probably go kind of like a Miley, like they had, or even more so like a Barnes or a Hedges or a guy like that, somebody that, has been at the top of the receiving realm for the last couple of years.
Right.
I think that'll play dividends for all the pitchers, and obviously I'll put them defensive first, but if they can get a guy that, maybe will pop off 10 times as a backup, I think that'd be really awesome too. So just finding that balance, do you want the Elias Diaz, that maybe a little bit more offensive minded, or do you want maybe the Hedges or the Barnes that's going to be way more defensive minded?
They need to find that. Yeah, I agree with you. I was just, I'm thinking you played with Russ Martin, right?
Mhm.
What a great role model he must have been for you. He was terrific behind the plate. He went to Toronto. He did okay there, had his time with the Dodgers. They don't need that anymore because of Stallings. They need that. Yeah, they need that guy who's just going to compliment him, the bat off of the bench, and a guy who can go out there with the assigned starter that he works best with. Yeah, I love the concept of where he came from with that. Charrington, who's he going to target in the free agent market? I've been reading all these guys getting released. I think I read it correctly. Ryan Braun got cut loose.
It's crazy, right?
I believe it. I don't like. Did you read that? Did you hear that?
I haven't been up to date with all that stuff last couple of days, but so with the pandemic, with COVID, the Pirates have a couple options, and they're going to have doors open that have never been open because the free agent market's going to absolutely stink, right? Guys aren't going to get picked up. Guys are going to sign late. So they're going to have opportunities to sweep guys in that maybe they weren't able to even touch. And especially guys that are looking to maybe resurrect their career or, have a really, really low ceiling right now, or really high ceiling, but they have a low cost right now. And those are the guys, if they have an opportunity to sweep those guys up, you just go pick them up. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to look for anybody that could possibly better their team now or a trade in spring training, middle of the year, or end of the year. They're going to look for any way to enhance their minor league system and their big league club moving forward. So if for example, they see a first baseman, don't be surprised if they go get him, even though you have Josh Bell, because the reality is he comes into spring training, he goes lights out, boom, see you later, Josh Bell, you're the first baseman. But also it puts a little bit of pressure on Josh Bell. Like there's nothing that should be taken off the table. If they can make their team better and they could possibly trade that chip or keep that chip and trade another chip, they're going to be looking at every single nook, cranny, crease. They're going to be looking under the table. They should be doing everything possible to try and enhance the ball club from top to bottom.
When you talk about first base, though, they got a pretty good first baseman playing down in Indianapolis. Well, he didn't play there this year. He was up in Altoona. But, why isn't he getting a shot? Why didn't he make the squad? Osuna got a shot to come up and play. Why didn't he?
I just think it's just the shuffle and the mix that they had this year. I mean, them not being able to prove themselves in AAA, put up big numbers and kind of push guys off. Josh Bell played better defense this year than he has in the past, so he's getting better there. And I think we saw glimpses of him hitting. That consistency is something that's kind of chasing him right now, and I think he's got to really kind of narrow in that. On his bad years, he hits 25 homers, maybe 30 homers. On his good years, he could hit 50. Yeah. He's got to find a balance there. It can't be, he's, going from a bottom of the order of the bat to an all-star, bottom of the order of the bat to all-star. That's really tough to understand what you have. So I think that's why you kind of keep the book open. And like I said, if you look at kind of the way Nutting operates, he's a businessman. We said we wouldn't go here, but I'll go here for you for a minute.
Okay.
So if I had an opportunity to talk to Nutting, I would say, all right, Nutting, how do you buy stock? You buy low, you sell high. So, well, right now, Major League Baseball is at its lowest point. It's been in a long time. Guys paid out a huge amount of money the last couple of years to free agents. There's not going to be a lot of money thrown around. I think you're still going to see big contracts. You may see a 5-year deal. You may see huge 1-year deals. But you're not going to see those 2 years, $12 million. You're not going to see, the in-between guys that probably would get this money.
Mhm.
They're not going to get it probably this year. So my thought would be like, well, baseball is going to kick back up. Fans are going to be allowed back in the spring. So why not try to buy what you can, and then you could sell it when you want.
Sure.
And it could enhance your ball club for years. I mean, years and years to come. Now, everybody maybe thinks you're crazy. You may start out the year with half the roster that you had this year in AAA, but then you could just say, okay, well, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone. All right, guys, come on up. And all of a sudden, your low A team's the best low A team in baseball. So you have a huge pool of 21-year-olds, down at low A. And we've seen with, Tatis and Acuna and all these guys are really young coming up, making impact.
Yeah.
So they're not holding guys back anymore. So if you make these trades, you may bring these guys up where they're just sitting in, low A, high A with the Dodgers because they're so heavy with prospects. So I think getting creative and making it more like a business, I always talk about the human aspect, but that's the reality that the Pirates are living is you got to do things a little bit different. It's more or less what the Rays do. Everything's a commodity, no matter what, no matter when. If you get the right price for it and it's going to enhance your ball club, can you take that commodity, lose that commodity, and still compete? And they showed it this year. They got rid of their best hitter. They got rid of their closer. They got rid of a starter, and they went to the World Series.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way you got to look at it. And if you do, I really think they can make a quick turnaround.
Speaking of, just guys getting rid of, when you talk about building that minor league system back up, I love the Marte trade. What'd you think about that? I mean,
I thought it was great.
He went to Arizona, and then he got traded out of Arizona. I felt for the guy losing his wife, but I mean, I thought that was the right thing to do. They seem to get a couple of pretty good prospects out of that based on what I've read about those guys coming through. So hopefully they pan out, and they're the beginning of, the one guy got plugged right in the Pirates top 10 in terms of prospects. So that was interesting to see. What other guys should we watch for this year in terms of prospects? Who could make that leap from the minors to the majors and contribute besides Hayes? Is there anybody?
I'm excited to see the guy, Mason Martin's a guy I'm excited about watching more of. I mean, there's quite a few. There's a bunch of guys that are on the radar that were going to be in Altoona and or flirting with Indianapolis. But like I told you a little bit ago, I don't want to put any stock. I think there's going to be some guys that we can't even understand because they were, a fill-in guy at low A, but they get his analytics, they teach him, and he has a work ethic that we don't even understand, and he just grinds to the top. I think we're going to see more guys like that over the next year or two in the Pirates organization. Be like, where did this guy just come from? He's a 12th round pick. Nobody really talked about him. And all of a sudden he's top 10 prospect. He's in the big leagues doing damage. I think we're going to see more of that than anything else. So it's easy to, go through the top 10 prospect list and say, yeah, this guy's going to be good. He's going to be good. You talk about Swaggerty, you can talk about a lot of these guys that have potential, but I don't even think we understand how good Swaggerty could be because I don't think he's maximized what he has available in that body.
Yeah.
And I think once they understand analytics and how they're utilized to enhance their play, I think these guys are going to run. I think they have a lot of high character guys, and they have a lot of guys that want to fight to win, and they're going to get the opportunity to play, more aggressively and more kind of free. And I can't imagine what it's going to do for them. So I almost leave it as like, hey, dream what you wish, because it's going to be special.
I know we talked about O'Neal Cruz too. You actually brought him up. Man,
Yeah.
I hope things pan out for that kid because, boy, is he a diamond in the rough out there. I mean, he's so big too. My
Yeah.
God, kid is
Yeah.
big.
He's a star. I mean, he does things that aren't normal.
Right.
You look at guys like who does things that just aren't normal, and he's one of those guys. The ball jumps off his bat completely different. You know,
Right.
if you look at Key Brian Hayes, he has lightning quick hands, and I said it consistently 2 years ago. I was like, this guy's gonna hit the big leagues. This guy's gonna hit the big leagues. This guy's gonna hit the big leagues because he's gonna have a better approach. He understands the game. I didn't even realize how good his makeup was, but it's off the charts. So he came up, just started raking. I think O'Neal Cruz can be the same way. I mean, just the bats he had in Cleveland in the exhibition games were remarkable.
Yeah.
I mean, just taking pitches and, seeing pitches hitting the ball hard when he made contact, that's not normal.
All right. So you said this team's going to make a major jump. They're going to surprise a lot of people. They're going to finish in the top three, or are they going to get in the playoffs?
The ball's going to have to, play out on that one. Can they? Absolutely. As we saw this year, we got to see one of the highest payrolls, one of the lowest payrolls in the World Series. We got to see Oakland win their division, Tampa win their division, and I think the game is going to have a little time where it's more balanced because of the ability to utilize analytics and how do you apply them. That's the kicker. How do you apply them to each guy? Who's got the right recipe? What are they looking for that we're not looking for? How are they building their team? And how are we building our team? I think that's where you can see the Pirates make a big jump. So could they make the playoffs? Sure. Why not? I think they're going to have the pitching, but they have a lot of question marks. The depth is a question mark. The health is a question mark. Consistency is always going to be the biggest question mark, especially with the team that was very inconsistent this year. But, we'll put it in reality. Here's how they win first place. Jameson Taillon comes out and he's better than you've ever seen him before, which I think is a possibility. Musgrove goes completely off of what he did at the end of the season. So there's your 1-2 punch, as good as possibly in the league. And then you have Brault, like he was this year. Another guy. That's three guys that are in the low threes, and they're pitching their absolute brains out. Chad Kuhl is reliable, but he's a punch. He's going to throw 5 innings consistently, strike out 10. If you do that, game changer. And then all of a sudden, Mitch Keller comes into his own, and he becomes the number 1. But you're putting him at the number 5. You have a starting rotation that could do some absolute damage. But that also pushes talent into the bullpen. It pushes, you're going to get Santana back after 18 games. His suspension's over. Jeff Hartley, low 2 guy, going to induce a lot of ground balls. Rich Rod, I think, is going to get traded. But you have, Baby Thor and Cedar Lynn coming out, throwing 100. You have Birdie possibly coming back, throwing 100. And you have a balance out there, but you also have J.D. Brubaker. You know what you're going to get. He's going to strike out a bunch of guys, and he's going to be very consistent for you. That's what you're going to need to balance out those flamethrowers. And then all of a sudden you're looking at it, it's like, man, we don't have to score that many runs. Polanco didn't play well, so he's going to be better no matter what.
Yeah.
Josh Bell will be better no matter what. Brian Reynolds will be better no matter what, right? Newman better no matter what. So, you think, if all those little pieces line up, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, they could be in the thick of it because it all kind of is going that direction. It's just, are they going to believe in themselves enough to just let it happen?
I've always been a firm believer. Me personally, I know spring training is just kind of prepping you for the season, but do you think that they need to win some games in spring training as a cohesive group? They won 2 games last year coming out of spring training. It really was disheartening to see that happen when, you had a brand new manager coming in, a brand new GM. You wanted to see some things go forward. I don't need to see 50 guys playing. I want to see some cohesiveness, at least towards the end of spring training, where they put some games together. You think spring training matters for them, for this young group?
I think winning matters. And what I mean by that, if you're winning every game, 6 innings,
Yeah.
And that's when your starters come out, then you won that day, right? If you're losing after they come out, it is what it is. Like, your minor league guys or your walkovers beat our walkovers, whatever. But I want to see the paradigm shift. Same as you. I want to see these guys go out and compete.
Yeah.
I want them to try to win the games in spring training. And I think that teaches more than anything in the entire world. I think you can develop, but then you forget how to compete. I think these guys got to go out, compete to develop, and see where it takes them. I think they can develop on the backfields, especially after this year. I think they learned how to compete against each other and develop at the same time. So I would, as soon as spring training starts, say, all right, guys, we're going to try to put pressure on every single human being on the field today. Every single human being that walks in the field, if there's a guy that's slow to the plate, we're stealing. If there's a bad catcher, we're taking off on him. If he can't block, we're going to go on every single dirt ball. If they're going to throw us fastballs all day long, we're going to try to hit them in the seats all day long. And just go out and compete and see what happens.
Interesting takes. You've done a great job of breaking this down in terms of.
I appreciate it.
Let me ask you this question. If you were not a professional athlete or doing baseball now as a studio analyst, what would you have done with your life? What would your career have been? Well,
something that I would serve in some capacity. I don't know exactly how. Maybe I'd be in a church. Maybe I'd be a service member in the military. Maybe I don't know where I would be, but I would serve. That would probably be number one. And like number two, I'd want to teach in some aspect. So serving and teaching would probably be the two things I would search for. I don't know what that would be though.
Teaching is serving, let me tell you.
Yeah. I think it goes hand in hand. It's just the fact of like what I would teach and how I teach it and the balance of the serving to it. So
it would all just kind of come to you, right?
I used to say I'd always be a strength coach, but I feel like that kind of molds into the same areas as a professional athlete and whatnot.
All right. So I do a final segment with my guest, and I call it Decade Definers, but I change it up. For you, I want to know the 4 top pitchers that you caught in your career.
Man, that's tough. Probably Garrett Cole, Ian Snell, or Blake Snell, sorry. Charlie Morton and Jorge De La Rosa.
Jorge De La Rosa, huh?
He's got some of the best stuff I've ever caught.
That's interesting.
I think if he played anywhere else besides Colorado, he'd be a Hall of Famer.
What made Morton so dynamic to catch? I always like Charlie Morton. I root for him really hard still.
He always had an out of this world breaking ball, and he has one of the best sinkers in baseball. So now that he understands how to get lefties out, which that was his kryptonite, he's just unbelievable. I mean, and he's an incredible person. So I root for him constantly.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Michael, thank you for joining me on the Steel City Nation podcast. It's been a lot of fun talking Pirate baseball and talking about your career, and I wish you luck when the season gets rolling around. We'll be listening and watching for you with the Pirates going forward.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me. Hopefully we can do it again sometimes, and I got to get a shirt like that.
Oh, I'll take care of you, buddy.
That's a sick shirt.
You know where I got this one? I got this at Yinzer's.
Oh, it's outstanding.
I got this one at Yinzer's. I wear this on when I watch the Steelers. I live in Frederick, Maryland, so when I watch the Steelers, I always wear this, my lucky shirt. And they play.
Yeah, and I love it. It's outstanding.
They play Baltimore this weekend, so I'll definitely have this shirt on.
Yeah, you got to have that on.
Definitely.
Sure.
I'll get you a Steel City Nation shirt, though. I'll get your address.
I'll support it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
no problem.
Have a good
Thank you.
night.
All right, you too. God bless you. All right,